Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Red Devils Experience. How you all doing? Latest breaking Manchester United news. Raphael Varane has announced that he is leaving the club at the end of the season, as you all probably heard already. This will go into effect as soon as the season is over. His contract is up. He is leaving on a free. We have more on that. We also have the Bruno Fernandes news. Reports coming out earlier today that Bruno Fernandes was considering leaving, and that Bruno Fernandes was considering leaving, and then reports later came out stating that Bruno Fernandes is going to stay, so we're going to get into that. Also, on top of that, there's the news of CASEMIRO will probably most likely be one of the next people to leave and go in the summer. Saudi links once again to CASEMIRO. Interesting updates on that. And then we have a couple player transfer updates, rumors, as well as a couple updates from Erik Ten Hag on players returning from injury and whatnot. And he made a couple statements. So we're going to get all into that. If you can, real quick, smash the like button for me. Turn on notifications. Subscribe if you haven't already so you know when we go live and all that good stuff. And it's all good to see everybody here. So we're going to get straight into the Raphael Varane thing, which is Raphael Varane will leave Manchester United as free agent at the end of the current season. Decision confirmed as revealed in January. This is by Fabrizio Romano. Obviously, there was an official club statement out of Manchester United. Varane made his own departing video, thanking the fans and saying how much he loved his time here and how much he loves the club. His contract won't be extended. We have more information on that, and that is French international defender Raphael Varane has announced his departure from Manchester United at the end of the season when his contract expires. Varane joined United in 2021, made 93 appearances for the club. His decision comes amid discussions about his injury record and the club's future defensive lineup. Fans and pundits have expressed mixed reactions, with some laminating the loss of a talented player and others suggesting it's a sensible more given his injury history. Varane's departure opens up opportunities for new signings, with Manchester United reportedly interested in Fulham's free agent defender Torsen Adarabioyo. So, and then we're going to get onto that as well, because there was an update about Torsen from Fulham, who is a free agent in the summer, so we would get him on a free. But my two thoughts about Varane leaving, before we shift over to the next panel, is it is sad that he's going. I like Varane very much. I think Varane is a very good player. I'm not 100% against it, for the fact that he was on a lot of wages. The club tried to negotiate a contract with him to stay on longer at lower wages. He did not accept those terms, and that is why he is leaving. And to be fair, I don't want to go as far and say that he is like super injury prone, but the injury issues surrounding him are out there. He's publicly stated problems that he suffers himself with injuries, and as we've seen at his time here, he does get injured a few times per season, and he does end up missing a few weeks, few games per season. And personally, I think that you can't have, as good as Varane is, and I love him, and he's a talent, you cannot have a player on $300,000 a week, that the wages that he's on. You cannot have a player like that and not be not available the way he is. We need consistency. We need reliability. And especially for those wages. And the wages are always way too high. They should have never been that high. And I think this is just an important step in INEOS starting a proper rebuild. I mean, from one point of view, you could look at it like I've seen many fans state today that it's upsetting that a player like Varane is walking out of the door and leaving this club before the list of many other players that should probably be leaving before him. But at the same time, if you look at the way Manchester United operated prior, they probably would have gave Raphael Varane a 5-year contract on 350,000 a week. And that would have totally screwed us. Because you would never be able to move him on. He would obviously decline way hard into old age. And we would never be able to get him off the books, and he would have to just wither away like a couple other players that we were unable to move because of the ridiculous amount in wages that we gave and the length in year in contracts. So I think as sad as I am to see him go, I think it's a necessary and important thing. And this is something that I think the fan base is going to need to get used to, is that there are a lot of players that we might not want to go, but they might have to go for certain circumstances, whether it's their wages, whether they're just not performing as good as they should, whether we need to raise some type of funds to do a proper rebuild. This is all, something that we're going to have to go through. There's obviously many other players that I would have gotten rid of before Varane, but I don't think there's necessarily a certain order when it comes to this. Raphael Varane's contract is up at the end of the season. The season is almost over. So I don't think they necessarily prioritize this and like he's the main problem, we got to get rid of him. I think it just happened in that order. We can't do much about the other players yet. The transfer window's not open. The season's not over, and they're still under contract. So to argue that you have to move on other players besides Raphael Varane, or there should be other players going before Raphael Varane, kind of doesn't make sense, because his situation is being handled first, because that's just how it has happened. His contract is up, and the season's pretty much over in like a week or two, and that's it. So it's sad that he's going. I liked him very much. I thank him for everything that he's done for this club, the service that he's provided. And I wish him all the best in his career. But we're looking to the future. We're looking to build. We need young players. So my only thing I would say on this is, if Raphael Varane is going, and I expect a Lindelof to go. Maybe Maguire doesn't go now. Maybe Maguire stays. But even a Maguire, we need. We need two center backs at least. Because if we're gonna move on another one, I mean, we're not getting any money necessarily per se in terms of a transfer fee, but we are saving about 18 million per year in wages. From Raphael Varane no longer being on the books, which is in the position that the club is in, that is a significant amount of money that you can add to either the transfer budget over time, spread out, or to give other players that we sign wages and kind of lower that wage bill, or split it up a little bit more and bring in more players. Now, what we need to get on to here is there was also news and updates about CASEMIRO. So Fabrizio Romano coming and saying that he expects CASEMIRO to leave Manchester United this summer. That was on his YouTube channel. And then we also had another piece coming out from the Telegraph saying CASEMIRO's representatives have already held talks with Saudi Pro League clubs. Manchester United are prepared to sell and would like any deal agreed at the start of the window, but will not push CASEMIRO out. Which, the last line is kind of interesting, because it's like, you don't want to push him out, but you are looking to sell him. So, I mean, and it's been stated for a while now that United will most likely sell CASEMIRO. Lyle, what's up, Lyle? How you doing? Yeah, so, and I think this right now is the correct move to do. CASEMIRO needs to be moved on. He should be one of the people going. I think we need to cash in. We need the cash. You can see that he's kind of declined. I think the Premier League is getting a little bit too much for him. It's a little bit too fast, and we need, if we're going to do a proper rebuild, we need to build young, and we need to, just move on and start a new project. Lyle in the chat here is saying he's sad to see Varane go. When he is not injured, he is immense, but it's a good move. Massive chunk off the wage bill with him and Martial going. Oh yeah, 100%. And that's a very good point too. Like, Martial is another player that's going, and he's on a lot of wages as well. And the fact, just him and what's Martial on 250,000 a week. So just them two going is I don't even know. I can't do the math. But from Varane, we say it's 18 million a year, and then I assume for Martial, it's obviously a little bit lower, but something close to that figure. So you're talking about at least 30 million. That's going straight into the transfer budget that you can use, and that's probably maybe a player, half a player, something like that. So I think it's important. Casemiro would be another one. I mean, if we sell Casemiro, we could get anywhere from 40 to 60 million for Casemiro. You send him to the Saudi league, you get a transfer fee for him, plus you get those wages off. That's already, we're already looking at almost close, or if not, that's 200 million right there in the transfer budget ready to go. So Manchester United effectively moving 3 players on have just went from having 100 million transfer budget to having 200 million in the summer. It's very important, and INEOS seem to be stepping on getting the work done, and we need to do that as well. Just checking for this update here. Now, something that ties into Varane going, which we will actually, let's get into that after. I just want to cover the Bruno thing, and then we'll jump into kind of a free for all type of thing, right? So, on Casemiro, I think it's 100% the correct decision. I think it's time for him to go. I think it's time for the club to cash in. I think it's a proper time. I think it's a good time. I think if he stays here any longer, I don't think you're going to get the fee that you can. And I think where we are looking for a proper rebuild. So let's rebuild. Let's get the young guys in. Let's create a young team. We'll still have a couple experienced players. As far as I can see, Bruno Fernandes will probably stay. Marcus Rashford will still be here. Oh, I messed up the live chat. Lyle saying, glad Saudi is coming in for Kase because we should get nice money for him. And since he is the highest earner on the books, helps major. Oh yeah, 100%. You're right on the money there. I mean, and this is what I'm saying. We have an opportunity presented to us right now that we are getting a decently good amount of money for a player like Casemiro, who is, what is he, 32 years old? If we keep him past right now, and let's say he keeps performing the way he's been performing, he's 32 years old. He'll be 33 in February. If we keep him on, and he keeps playing the way he's been playing lately, and it declines even further, you might not get the same opportunity presented. So I think you need to take the opportunities when they come across the desk, and I think that right now is the perfect time. I mean, and like I said, you combined, Casemiro sale with Martial going, with Varane going, and that's only 3 players, and that's about 200 million to the transfer budget right there. So almost another 100 million just off of those 3 players. So it's very important that we do this, and INEOS, like we stated many times, they need to get this right. They cannot afford to be sitting around. They cannot afford to be taking their time. They need to move fast. They have to make good deals. They got to do proper business this season, especially if Erik ten Hag is staying as well. I think even more so, because the pressure's on him, and he needs as much support and as much of the hierarchy to perform their duties as properly as possible so that he has the best chance and the club has the best chance of succeeding next season. So let me switch over to the Bruno Fernandes thing right now. And so here you're going to see a bunch of updates. I'll read through them so that it's not kind of confusing. So David Ornstein, very credible guy. I always like he usually doesn't mess about. He's not no Samuel Luckhurst who is just a complete dick. And we will no longer feature anything that Samuel Luckhurst puts because screw that guy. He's a piece of crap, and I don't like what he does. I don't like the way he pretends to be a journalist and puts his opinions and a bunch of nonsense out. So David Ornstein said, Bruno Fernandes was because as we stated before, it was Bruno Fernandes was looking to leave was what was coming out, and then it later came out that Bruno Fernandes is most likely going to stay. And this updates came from David Ornstein saying Bruno Fernandes was seeking clarity on United's direction and whether their ambition matches his to be central to a competitive and successful side under the new sporting setup. Fernandes will want to see evidence that this is achievable, and if he is unsatisfied or a massive offer arrives that Manchester United have a financial need to accept, his exit cannot be completely ruled out. However, the sense is all parties came away from the talks feeling his questions were satisfactorily answered, and the strong expectation is that he will not be leaving. Chris, he went on to say that Bruno Fernandes and Manchester United showed confidence that what they each wish for can be achieved. Sir Dave Brailsford, Jason Wilcox, and Matt Hargreaves attended for United, while Fernandes was accompanied by his representatives. Manchester United were firm in underlining Fernandes' importance, and his commitment was reiterated, subject to United's delivering the shared vision. So that's actually a very important piece right there because Sir David Brailsford and Jason Wilcox and Matt Hargreaves literally sat down with Bruno Fernandes and his representatives, and they had a meeting about this. So it was important representation from the people involved in this new project from INEOS, Sir David Brailsford, Wilcox. Obviously, Matt Hargreaves was already there, but the two big ones is Wilcox and Sir Dave Brailsford. And they sat down with Bruno and they discussed, what their plan is to him, what they expect to do, the direction they're going in. And Bruno, did the same and said what he expects, what he wants to see. And they pretty much came to an agreement and they both liked what they heard from each other. So it seems like Bruno Fernandes will be staying and not actually going. Obviously, that line where, if Bruno becomes unsatisfied with what he's seeing, probably during the summer window and the way things are going, or a gigantic, massive offer for Bruno Fernandes, you would probably have to say in the region of 80 million plus, comes to the club's way, then they would probably consider selling him or he might consider to leave. I don't think either of those things will happen. I don't think Bruno's going to be dissatisfied with the way the project is going, so I don't think he'll leave for that reason. I think the only way he would probably end up leaving is if a big bid comes in, which a big bid may come in. It might come from Saudi, but I don't think Bruno wants to go to Saudi, so that would probably get rejected. But other than that, unless Real Madrid probably wouldn't go for him, but maybe a PSG, but I doubt it. Unless some team like that in the top 4 league, maybe a Bayern Munich or something, unless they come with a hefty offer, 80 million plus, then maybe they would consider selling him. But I just don't see it happening. So I think Bruno's going to stay. On top of that, Chris Wheeler also said Manchester United are interested to keep Bruno Fernandes and he wants to stay. So both of them are agreeing that they both want Bruno to stay at the club. And on top of that, Bruno Fernandes firmly expected to stay at Manchester United. This is the update in The Athletic. The 29-year-old and his reps held a long meeting with Manchester United bosses last week to discuss the future. Club made clear to keep midfielder, and he expressed desire to remain provided ambitions are matched. So those are important updates. And I'm actually very happy that Bruno Fernandes is staying. I think Bruno Fernandes needs to stay, because as I was saying before, we do need to do a proper rebuild. We do need to start moving on players, and some might argue that Bruno might have to be one of those players that needs to be moved on. But the way I see it is, we're losing. Varane's going, Martial's going, um, Casemiro's probably gonna go. There's definitely a few more that are gonna go. I mean, Maguire might go. Lindelof might go. Um, Sancho is probably gonna be moved on. And the thing is, like, those, when you start naming those players, those are all pretty much senior players in the squad. So I don't think we can afford to get rid of every single senior player. We need to keep a couple, but the majority of the base we should really be building young. I mean, if we're getting rid of Varane and we're getting rid of Casemiro, right? The people coming in should be 22, 23, 21 years old. Um Fairly young but old enough to start, old enough to develop properly, old enough to, compete and fight for a first team spot or take the first team spot. And then we need to keep some of the couple more senior players, probably like Rashford, probably like Bruno, maybe a Luke Shaw. But we probably need to look at another left back. If I don't know the Malacia situation, it really depends. If this guy has become injury prone, then it's a problem. Um, Lyle saying in the chat, the only time I would see Bruno leaving is if his contract runs out, but he would call for a big price. No, I mean, I think what they stated in the reports, I think it's fairly true. Um, I think it's fairly factual. I think honestly, like, I think if we get to the summer window and we hit end of July and Manchester United have signed one player, and we haven't done any real transfer business, and it's not looking great, or the players that we're bringing in, um whatever they're trying to assemble isn't looking good, I think Bruno would probably ask to go. um because at the same time, the guy does have ambitions and he needs to see something with a clear vision going forward. I think Bruno loves the club. I think Bruno wants to stay at the club, but it's almost similar to something like Cristiano Ronaldo. Cristiano, I think he loved the club. I think Cristiano wanted to stay, but I think Cristiano became very disillusioned with the direction of the project, that they obviously presented to him a certain project. After one season, he didn't really see the project going in a certain direction, as and also with everything else that's going on in the club, with the facilities not being upgraded and all that stuff. And I think he became very disillusioned and he wanted to leave. Because he just saw that there was no plan for that going forward. You know what I mean? So, but I think the only way he would actually leave would be if he if it has to be a huge offer, and I don't see really any club besides a Saudi club that would put that in there, and I don't think Bruno wants to go to the Saudi league. So I don't think that deal would happen. So I'm highly confident that Bruno Fernandes will be here based off of what we're getting reported. Lyle saying left back position needs to be overhauled. We need at least two players for next season, and have Shaw as third choice because of his injury record. I agree. But that's why that left back situation is kind of confusing, because we do have Malacia, and Malacia has suffered, with the injuries. The surgery went wrong and all that stuff. Um, and we don't really know more than what they told us on, like, what is his actual condition. Is this guy, has he become injury prone, or is it just taking a really long time for him to recover? When he comes back and he's fully recovered, is he going to be more likely to be fit and available all the time, or is he going to be injury prone where he's going to be, in and out, in and out? Because if Malacia is in and out, and he's becomes unreliable, then yeah, we probably do need two players at left back. If we don't, if he doesn't, then we probably only need one. And we probably, I don't know what kind of player you would go get because Malas is the young guy, Shaw is the older guy. So it's like, well, what do you get? Do you get a more experienced guy? Do you get like a 29-year-old maybe? A, a little bit, somebody a little bit up there, that has a good injury record and all that stuff, and he's, very reliable, and you could use him as the first choice and drop Shaw maybe to second choice and Malasi at the third or something like that. I wouldn't be against that, but it's definitely something you kind of have to sit down and think about a little bit, and give it some thought, and also you need to be privy to some more information. Obviously those within the club, they know more on like the situation of Malasia. But Shaw, obviously, we've spoken about this. Shaw is very injury prone. He has never completed a season at Manchester United. Um, lot of saying I always forgot about Malasia, but you're right. After this season, he might become injury prone. Yeah, I mean, I've almost forgotten about him at times too. You know what I mean? Because he's literally just disappeared off almost the face of the earth. Like the guy, you don't even see him outside pretty much. I mean, we got that one video of him doing workouts in the gym with weights, and that was pretty much it. That was like the only thing we've ever seen from him like the whole year practically. You don't see him on the training pitch, you don't see him outside, you don't see him walking around. Um but and that's why it's kind of concerning, because it's like this guy suffered some type of crazy injury to his knee, I believe it was, and it was just like they didn't want to talk about it. They didn't give us any information for quite some time, and it's almost like I was getting very concerned because I was like, what kind of injury did this man suffer that they don't even want to talk about it? They don't even want to provide some type of updates. I was like, how serious is this? Is it like a problem where it's like gonna impact him for the rest of his career? Because players do suffer injuries like that, and they get a surgery. I mean, Owen Hargreaves was one of those players. And he became a player that like he had to retire super super early at his age because he just couldn't continue. Is that going to happen to Malasia? Like we need to know these things so we can make a proper decision. Because if he is, like, let's just say he is properly injury prone or becomes properly injury prone, well, now we have two injury prone left backs. So that means that one of them definitely has to go, right? One of them would have to be, you would have to get rid of one of them. You cannot keep two injury prone left backs. And the other one you would keep and make them either second or third string, because maybe if they play less games, um, they won't be so injury prone. They'll be able to handle the workload and all that stuff. But obviously, if not, then yeah, you would probably have to get two more left backs. I mean, listen, Manchester United have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of things that need to be done. Obviously, if you watch the match against Arsenal or you go on social media, you've seen the disgrace of our stadium. It's such a sad sight that it was literally a fucking waterfall all over. That shit hurts to just see that state, man, because that's something that should never be a thing. It should never happen. It should have never gotten to this point. I mean, it's just it's fucking embarrassing, dude. It's embarrassing, and I'm just like, and they were loving it. The media was loving it, dude. They were loving it, cracking jokes and doing all type of shit. And I'm like, dude, this is why we need the season to end. We need all this shit to go away, and we need to get the fucking work, and we need to start building, because I'm tired of being embarrassed. I'm tired of getting talked down to. I'm tired of fucking, people just straight up like, you guys suck, you guys are shit, and like, there's nothing really you can rebuttal, because that is the truth at this moment. But I have faith and I have hope that we are going to improve. But we just have to be patient and wait for the time for that to come, which starts in the summer transfer window. So the faster we can get there, the better, because we can start moving away from what this is and start moving to a brighter future. So on top of that, we had a couple like updates. So obviously, as mentioned before, with the news that Varane was going, um, Manchester United, and we already talked about this in the previous couple things. Manchester United are looking to sign Fulham centre back Tosin Adarabioyo on a free transfer. He is a free transfer at the end of the season. Newcastle apparently are also interested in signing this guy. I think they might have held some type of talks or something. And then it was obviously reported by Talksport here saying Manchester United are now trying to hijack Newcastle's move for Fulham centre back Towson on a free transfer. Jason Wilcox, who helped to bring Towson through the youth ranks at Manchester City, is keen to bring him to United. So this is actually a very interesting link because Jason Wilcox worked with Towson at Manchester City in the youth setup when he was at Manchester, when they were both at Manchester City. Jason Wilcox, obviously, you know, coming in and joining us now, and he already has a previous relationship with this player. So clearly, he has identified this player as somebody that we can use and would probably be a good fit for the rebuild. So I actually kind of fully believe this based on the links. And you know what? I haven't been watching this guy too much, so I'm not like 100%. Um, I can't really rate the guy. I haven't really paid attention too much to how he plays. I don't really watch Fulham too much. Um, you know what I mean? So I don't know how good he actually is. And I'm gonna keep my eye out probably in the next match and just look out to see how he plays a little bit and just scout him a little bit. But uh, yeah, I mean, he's fairly young and he's a free transfer, and yeah, I mean, get him in. If they think he's good enough, get him in. I have to put my trust in these guys, and so we'll see where that goes. Sani the Piri saying, "Bro, good evening from Zambia. My name is Sandy Pri. You are sure you are okay with this coach, with Erik ten Hag? Am I sure that I'm okay with Erik ten Hag?" Um, yeah, I mean, I think we should give him one more season. With the circumstances, I think with the circumstances that he's dealt with this season, and while he's made some poor decisions and he's made some frustrating decisions, um, I was never the one to really be for Manchester United to end up in the position where we hire and sack a coach 1 year in, 2 years in. Um, I think these guys need some time. I think Erik ten Hag is unfortunate with the amount of injuries that this team has suffered. It's basically almost impossible. If you look at any team in the Premier League, if they suffered this amount of injuries, to their team, they would be totally decimated. Uh, Most likely, depending on who it is, the media would probably be making huge amount of excuses for them not piling it on, but because it's Manchester United and because they don't like Erik ten Hag, they do the opposite to him, and they want to completely ignore it. But I mean, for an example, Kevin De Bruyne, when he's injured and he's out, and that's one player, and Manchester City don't have basically any injuries like ever. Their squad is basically there, and they have two full squads of players anyway. But even when they lose Kevin De Bruyne, they literally cry that, we're not performing as well because Kevin De Bruyne. One player. One player. We haven't had a defense all season long. We've had 35 different combinations in the defense at center back. If you do that to any team, if you do that to Arsenal, they ain't going to have the goal difference they have, and they're not going to be in the position of the league they are in. If you do that to Manchester City, they're not going to have the goal difference they had, and they're not going to be in the position that they are in the league. If you do that to Liverpool, it's the same thing. If you do it to Aston Villa, it's the same thing. If you do it to Tottenham, it's the same thing. If you do it to any club, whatever position they're currently in, they will go lower. Guaranteed, because there's no stability, and you need to have stability, especially in your defense. Especially in your defense. Your defense wins you games. You have to build a strong, solid spine from the back. If your defense is no good, you're gonna concede goals like we have, and you're gonna lose matches, and you're gonna drop points. Defense is very important because you could have a very, very solid defense. You could sneak away games and win 1-0. Win at the end. All it does is take one goal. You go out, you score one goal, but you're conceding 3 or 4. You're losing matches, you're losing points. Lyle coming in saying Erik ten Hag deserves one more season, or at least the first 10 games of the new season under the new structure. The manager pool is non-existent at the moment. No solid manager to replace Erik ten Hag. Yeah, I pretty much agree with that as well. I don't really like the candidates that are out there. There might be like one or two, but there's nothing really concrete. It was more just like paper talk. I know like Hansi Flick is out there. I actually kind of like that guy as a manager. But that was mentioned once and never mentioned again. So I don't see that being a thing. Um, and also, that leads us into actually a perfect segue before I get onto the other topics, because as you mentioned that, Lyle, there was an update after I put the show together that McKenna is being eyed to come in as the manager if Erik ten Hag is to leave. So Manchester United apparently have met with representatives of Kieran McKenna to discuss the possibility of him becoming the club's next manager. This development comes amidst speculation about the future of the managerial position at Manchester United, with other names like Gareth Southgate also being considered. McKenna, who has previously worked as a coach at Manchester United, is really excited by the opportunity to return to the club in a managerial role. It was said Kieran McKenna is a candidate to become the next MUFC manager. The first concrete contacts have already taken place between McKenna's representatives and the leaders of Manchester United. I think there was a follow-up to this. The club and McKenna's agent have met recently, so they have met. There is a discussion there. Whether that means anything, like, is gonna come out of it, we don't know. But we were talking about this last time, and it's very interesting that this has actually come up now. Sani saying, "Bro, I love my team so very much, even feeling to eat when Manchester United lost. I've been stopped eating when we lost the game." Ah, dude, don't do that to yourself though. Come on. You got to eat, man. You got to take care of yourself. Don't listen. Don't let the current situation of Manchester United uh affect your life, or send you down a path of not looking after yourself or taking care of yourself, or putting you in a bad mental state. I understand it's hard. Hey, good evening, Richard. How you doing? Hope everything's good. Just I understand it's tough, and I understand it hurts where we are, but I don't know. For me, at least, mentality that I've really taken recently is that nothing in life lasts forever. Everything is temporary, so that means that what we're going through right now is temporary. It's temporary. How temporary? It depends. Could be a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, but it's temporary. It doesn't last forever. Things will change. Things always change. Things have to change. So, you just gotta keep up the you just gotta keep it up, keep positive, and keep moving forward. Don't get too down. These bad periods don't last forever. There's been many of them throughout history in many different aspects. Lyle saying, "I like McKenna, however, it is premature for him to take over, especially after a full season in the Premier League as a manager. It will be tough for Ipswich to stay up, and if he gets through that challenge, good." Um, yeah, I actually, Lyle, I'm right there with you. That's what I was gonna say. Before I had to address Sandy, because I wanted to address Sandy. Um, I think it is, and I said this last time on one of our shows. I think it is premature for McKenna to take over. I think it would be a huge ask. If he was to come in as manager. And I don't think it would be the correct move at this moment for him. I think he should continue on at Ipswich. I think he should take a season under Ipswich in the Premier League. And I think he should continue on his current path. I think he's on a perfect path. I think he's doing an absolutely excellent job. And I'm not against him being the manager one day. But I think for our current situation, the current atmosphere surrounding the club, I feared that it would go horribly wrong for him. I feel like he wouldn't get the time that I know he would need from a large majority of people. I think if things didn't go very well, very quickly, I think a lot of people would turn their backs on him. I think they would be quick to just throw him under the bus. And I don't want to see that because for me, if you bring in somebody in like Kieran McKenna, you're essentially saying that this guy, he needs minimum 3 seasons. We have never given a manager 3 seasons. We have struggled to do this. No manager has gotten 3 seasons. I think he needs a minimum of 3 seasons. I think one, he would have to learn. He's still learning. I think he would have to learn while and Manchester United is a huge club. So I think, you would basically have to say like, that's 3 seasons where you pretty much just have to excuse whatever happens. Like if we finish 8th in 2 seasons, you have to excuse, or you're gonna turn your back on him. It's. I think it's a little bit premature. I think what he's doing is fantastic, and I think he's doing a great job, and it's looking very good for him. And I think he's definitely gaining very valuable experience as a manager. And I think what he should do is I think he should stay at Ipswich, like Lyle said, and do 1 season as a Premier League manager at Ipswich, manage in the Premier League, like be a manager, in the Premier League at Ipswich, challenge there. That's going to be very tough. As we've seen, all the teams that come up, they go down the next season. So if he can come in and he can do pretty well and keep them up, and maybe he gets them even in mid-table or something like that, something crazy, that's definitely valuable experience gained for him. He's improved as a manager. 1 season, he's gained a year experience in the Premier League as a manager. So I think that's where he should stay, because we are not. I don't think we're even in the position really for him to come in. I think that's where it would stand better if we keep Erik ten Hag. Erik ten Hag, you keep him for one more season to see how it goes. I think different, better managers will be available in the next season. And I think it would benefit us to be a little bit more patient, and just stick with what we have and see where it goes, because we can improve. And I still believe that this manager can turn the things around, but we need to get in the players. We need to operate properly. Richard saying, Lyle saying, like minds, my good sir, LOL, like minds, the United mind. Yeah. Unfortunately, the United mind does not go to our entire fan base, because we have such a large fan base that would be kind of weird if it did, and everybody thought the same and had the same thoughts and stuff like that. But there are fairly a good amount of people. Richard saying, I was there when we won the European Cup in '68. I was there when we were relegated in '73, and I will be there when we become champions yet again. Well, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. We will be there again, 100%. That's all I know. If you look at any aspect in life, and in anything, and it's not just football, and you look at anything, businesses, whatever, everything has a cycle. Everything, there's moments of greatness and there's moments where it's absolutely shit. Do they stay in both? No, they do not. They do not. They sometimes the length of greatness is very long, and the periods of shit is very short. And sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes it's more 50-50. But nothing ever stays totally, on top forever. And nothing stays at the bottom totally forever. It's always an up and down. And that's all life. So I don't know when, and I don't know exactly how, but I do know that this club will come back at some point and be what it was, because it's happened in our history numerous amount of times. And it's not just our club. It's happened at like almost every club. Liverpool's gone through it. Arsenal has gone through it. Many clubs go through it. And I think we're also at a point where we are too big to like ever just fade away into nothingness, Obviously what happened with Blackburn was kind of like a different story, but What do you guys saying in the chat? Sandy saying, I don't understand what kind of training Ten Hag does. Give the players every time, always cries about the injuries. Look at what Crystal Palace did to us. That's an embarrassing. And then Richard replying, saying, I think they need to look at the medical staff and the coaching team. And Lyle also saying, you can't deny the fact that Erik Ten Hag had massive challenges this season. A lot of it out of his control. The new structure is going to take so much of his plate, and that is a huge positive. Yeah. Listen, on that point, I get what you're saying, Sandy, because the performance wasn't great, and you start to wonder, and you're like, what are they doing in training? How can they perform this bad? But we've seen this, and that's why it's not just under Erik Ten Hag. I mean, look what the players. Forget the injuries this season, right? Look at what the players gave us last season, right? And look what they gave us this season. Last season, did anybody in the fan base complain? These players didn't try. These players are walking. These players are not up to it. There was a couple moments where we suffered big defeats and we questioned the mentality of them. But in terms of levels of effort, we did not question them. We thought pretty much they were fighting. That back line was, they were going crazy. Lisandro Martinez, De Gea, that whole back line, the unity that we had when they blocked the shot, when they stopped the shot, when they made an important interception, they were out there celebrating it like a goal. We haven't seen that this season. And if you take Erik Ten Hag out of the equation, look at what the players did under Rangnick. Look at what the players did towards Solskjaer in his last season. Look at what the players did to Mourinho. It goes beyond the manager. The manager, and I've explained this many times, it's that old saying, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink it. Erik Ten Hag is the guy leading the horse to the water. Erik Ten Hag is the manager. Erik Ten Hag is not a stupid man. Erik Ten Hag knows what he wants. Erik Ten Hag knows what he's trying to do. If he's trying to give a sense of direction or instructions to these players, but the players are either incapable of taking it on board or they're refusing to take it on board, there's nothing he can really do, because you can't force these players to do it. You cannot. Like, what is he going to do? Tie him up to a chair and hit him over the head with a bat or something until they, they're like, okay, I'll do it or whatever. That's why it's important to get the correct profile of players. It's important to get the correct type of players. Look when Guardiola walked into Manchester City. Look at the players they had. None of those players are there. They're all gone. Now, you see, you kind of saw what Guardiola was trying to do, but they were obviously incapable of doing what he wanted them to do. That's why he got rid of all of them, and he got in players that can do exactly what he wants. But that also goes hand in hand with the people above him, that they had the same plan, vision, direction, and they went out and they got him the players that he needed to implement what he was trying to implement. At Manchester United, Erik Ten Hag does not have that luxury because he wanted to implement and do things a certain way. Obviously, we haven't been operating correctly at a hierarchy level for 11 plus years. So there was no way that this was ever going to work properly. Now, with the Sir Jim and the new hierarchy setup, maybe we can move forward and we can have a better, clear plan going forward. We can get in players that fit the system and the style that Erik Ten Hag has been wanting to implement since he got here. But we need to see where we go from there. On top of that, Richard, mentioned that, we need to look at the medical staff and the coaching team. 100%. I think that the coaching staff and the medical staff, just the department itself, definitely needs to be looked at. It's supposedly being looked at. That's what we hired that Gary O'Driscoll guy for. And he's supposedly doing an audit of the whole department. But for sure, there are issues there. For sure, because it stems over so many years. And I said this last time. If you have time, go look at Manchester United's injury record from 2013 to 2024. Look at the amount of injuries we sustained. Look at how many seasons we've gone through where you would consider it to be an injury crisis, and compare it to other teams. We seem to sustain a lot more injuries and go through a lot more injury crises than normal. Therefore, there is a clear indication that there is something wrong with the medical department. It is not just on a manager, a specific manager. It is the department, and 100%, because the club has been neglected for so long and it's been run poorly for so long. Every aspect of the club needs to be changed. The stadium has 27 holes in it like it's Swiss cheese, and when it rains, it looks like a fucking water park. The medical department it doesn't operate correctly. The scouting network is overbloated and doesn't operate correctly. Just every aspect of that club has not been taken care of and does not operate correctly. So it's going to take time. We have a lot of changes that need to be made. These changes should have been being made, and they obviously weren't, and it's why we are where we are. So that's another thing, is why it's hard to only solely focus on the manager, because we are not in a position to really be like look at Real Madrid, for example, right? Look at the team Real Madrid have, right? If Real Madrid don't win the league, they get knocked out round of 16 in the Champions League, it's considered a total failure for them, right? With their current setup and the way they operate, everybody would be like, the manager has to go because it is the manager's fault. Look at our setup. Look at the players we have. Look at the team we constructed. We do good business. We get high quality players, and you've managed to do what you did. And you compare that to us, and it's like, how can you just solely look at the manager and be like, oh, if we fire the manager, things will be fixed? Because we are nowhere near operating in the way Real Madrid have operated. We need to work towards that. But all those issues come above the manager anyway. So those things need to be taken care of. Then the manager is just a little chess piece that you can move around at some point. Once you set up all your positions on the chessboard, you can move the king wherever the hell you want. And it don't matter. You can move the king all over the place. You can replace the manager as many times as you want, as long as the other pieces in the club are there and they're in a proper position, then you're good. Richard saying, I can remember a time when Derby County were one of the biggest teams in the league. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. That's nuts. As far as long as I've been alive, they've never been a big team. So yeah, that's always kind of crazy too when you go back and look at that stuff, and it's like, holy shit. Who has a European trophy? Is that Nottingham Forest? Or one of those teams, or is it Blackburn? One of those teams has a European championship, right? Or two? They might have two. And when I found that out, I was like, how? I was like, wait. So they won European trophy, and I was like, and now they're like in the championship or League One. Nottingham has two, Forest and Villa. Yeah. Oh yeah, and Villa too. Yeah, but Forest was the one, because I found this out like few years ago. And I was like, Forest is in like League One or something. I was like, how the hell did they ever? I was like, when did they win European trophies? And then I had to go back and look, and I was like, oh shit. I was like, they used to be like a force. And I was like, what the hell happened to them? But this was like obviously in an era where like, the money, it's just not the same situation. Now there's like too much money involved, and there's too much. It's very hard to end up like how those teams have, like Blackburn and Nottingham and stuff like that. It's very hard to like end up like that nowadays with just all the commercialism and all that stuff. Richard was also saying there will be big changes at the end of the season, so let's hope they are all good. Yeah, there's big changes. I'm excited. I'm waiting to see what's going to come out of there. Lyle saying, look at Arsenal. Arteta molded the team to his philosophy, and look at them now. And that is coach only focused on the team. Erik Ten Hag had to play so many roles, and that's not fair. Well, a little pushback on that. He asked for that as well. But I don't necessarily blame him because the way we operate and the people we had in charge, then they weren't competent anyway. But he did ask for all of that control. He did want to be involved in all of that. And I think he should have some type of say, but he shouldn't be like the main man focusing on all those things, because I do agree that he should be more focused on the team. And I think that's where INEOS are looking at, because I think that's what INEOS really want as well. Like, they want a manager that's primarily basically focused like 90% on the team. You know what I mean? I think Guardiola is very similar. Like, obviously Guardiola is very detailed and, down to the very specifics, and I'm sure he does get involved in certain places, but I don't think he's doing multiple roles throughout the season. I think Guardiola is very focused on managing and making sure his players are executing perfectly 100%. And I think that's what we need 100%. We need the manager to be basically focused on just being the manager. The Fergie did it all, but Fergie was a special man, and these were different times. Like, I don't think that this shit works like that anymore. I just don't think it works very well. I think setups are very different, and it's just football is different. And, we need to definitely have that kind of setup where, just you have the manager and he focuses on his philosophy and the team, and putting together the team, and putting 100% focus and effort solely on how the team is performing, and not being distracted by all the other stuff that is being run around the club. You said you like the new setup for the channel. Thank you. I made this. I made this myself. It wasn't as hard as I thought it was gonna be, and I do like it. It's a nice little touch. You know what I mean? So, um, eventually I'll get something very much more nicer. Um, Either I learn how to do it myself in like Photoshop and all that like graphic design stuff, or I got a friend or two. I think they might be able to make some type of very very cool setup for me. So we'll see that later on down the line. But I think this is good enough for now. I like it. It's very good, and it was simple to make. So thanks for that, Richard. Sandy was saying any team in England is bigger than us. We became underdogs. Yeah, I mean performance wise. Yeah, but also I think we're definitely below the. We this season we definitely performed below the levels of where what we could or should be doing. With the players we have and all that, and a lot of that again is down to the injuries. I mean, the injuries has had a huge and negative impact on our season. It's it is a very hard thing, and I know a lot of people, they don't like excuses and they see that as an excuse, but it's just the reality, and the fact of that that you cannot have a sustainable season with what we've gone through. So I think we have, and I think the mentality is a little bit low, and I think the confidence is a little bit low. Um, so we are certainly underdogs. I think teams don't really fear us. But that's why we need to build. We need to build. We need to build a stronger team. We need to build a more fierce team. We need to build a quicker team. We need to build a more confidence team. And I think that starts number one with certain players. I think we need to get rid of certain players. We need to bring in a certain profile of players, and you start there and you build it there, and you come with a belief and a philosophy, and you implement it, and you get the players to buy into it, and you build up from there, and you turn it into something that is very very strong and confident, and makes other teams scared of it. It's something that we've been missing for quite some time, but I think it's definitely achievable, and it's definitely has to be the goal that we have to work towards. Ray's in here. Ray, how you doing? Hope everything's good. Richard was saying with the previous staff, Varane would have got another 5-year contract. Richard, I'm so glad you said that because you weren't here for the beginning of the show. Lyle was here, and Lyle could vouch. I literally said the same exact thing that you said. I said the same exact thing when I talked about the Varane news because we already kind of covered that. And I said that it's sad Varane is going. I like Varane very much as a player. I think he's good. But at the same time, I'm not totally against it because one, he unfortunately is slightly injury prone. For the amount of wages he was on, I think it's just a good time for him to move. He didn't want to. They offered him to stay. They wanted him to take reduced wages. He didn't want to take a reduced wage. That's fine. That's fair. Listen, the guy wants his money, whatever. Like, you can't hate on a guy for going to get his money. He's a nice dude. He's not a mercenary per se. And I think he's served us to the best of his ability, and he obviously loves this club, and it's gonna stick with him forever, as he said. But in terms of we're looking to do a proper rebuild, we're looking to do a brighter future at Manchester United. I think a player like Varane, you get those wages off. He's not as reliable as some would like, and we can get maybe a 21-year-old, a 22-year-old, a 23-year-old to come in, always available, has a high ceiling, is hungry, and is ready to go. That's perfect. That fits the mold into this project that we're going into. So, but 100%, like you were saying, I literally said those words. I said, listen, but I was like, this is part of INEOS's plan, and we have to get used to this. The fan base is going to have to get used to. Players are going to have to be moved on, whether we actually want them to or not, because it has to be part of the process of the rebuild. And under the previous regime, like Richard said, they would have gave him a 5-year contract, and they probably would have gave him an extra 50,000 in his wages. They would have probably upped his wages to 350,000 just to keep him, and they would have gave him a 5-year contract. And we would have got screwed from that because the wages would definitely be way too excessive, and he would get to a certain age where he would just break down, and we wouldn't be able to move him on, and we would probably have to let him go into retirement at our club and then literally get nothing. And just to get those wages off, So, 100%. Ray's saying we have to wait till the transfer market open and see if they do real business. Ray's also saying if we don't move Maguire, Lindelof, and the other crap there is around, we're still going to be in the same position next year. Richard saying CASEMIRO and Varane, we got 5 years too late. Yeah, I mean, Varane wasn't like so late though. When did he leave? He was like 28 or 29, I think. Which isn't horrible, I guess, right? But the only problem is that he is slightly injury prone. If Varane was fit all the time and he didn't have these little injury problems, right? He would be perfectly fine. You probably could have kept him on for another 2 years or so, and it wouldn't be a problem. And if they didn't give him the stupid wages that he was on, Varane would be totally acceptable. I think Varane wasn't even that bad of a buy. CASEMIRO, in my opinion, he might have been around the same age because I think CASEMIRO's 32, right? So what we got him at 30, I believe, because he's been here for 2 seasons, 2 years. So we got him at 30. Yeah, see, like CASEMIRO was a little bit too late because it's 30. So exactly what are you going to get out of him? Maybe 2 good years, and now we see the decline. So I think CASEMIRO was a little bit late. I think Varane was all right, though. I think Varane, like that's okay, for a center back. And on what Ray was saying with just Maguire and Lindelof and that, I mean we're already talking about 3 players are pretty much out the door. Martial is gone, Varane is gone. Those 2 are 100% confirmed. They're already going. They're off the books. And as I explained earlier, that's about you're saving 18 million in wages from Raphael Varane. That goes to the transfer budget. Whatever Martial's on, I think it's like 250,000 a week. So that's like another almost, 12 million or something like that. So that's about 30 million. And Casemiro is probably going to be sold because Saudi is interested in him. And if you could sell Casemiro for anywhere from 40 to 60 million, plus you're getting his wages off of the books. So if you sell him for 40 million, plus you remove his wages, that's probably about another 50, 60 million. We just almost raised 100 million, and we have 100 million transfer budget start. So now we have 200 million. So we'll be able to move. And I fairly am confident that we are going to do player sales. And I'm fairly confident that we're going to bring in players because I always had this theory that the Glazers, the way they operated, and we called it incompetence, but I think they just did it through a business aspect of they looked at every player as an asset and they refused and they kept players and they did things like giving Raphael Varane a 5-year contract at the age of 32 or whatever or however old he is, and increasing his wages. That was all strictly business to inflate the value of their asset because that asset goes under the club, which they have on the stock market, and the higher that goes, the more money they make in dividends. We are no longer operating like that because Sir Jim Ratcliffe is in charge, and we have people that are going to make football decisions. I think there was numerous amount of times that we could have moved on Deadwood, and they refused to move on Deadwood because they wanted to retain their assets, not because they thought, oh, he's a good player or we want to keep him here. It was more of we want to retain our assets so that it doesn't get written off the books as a loss. We are not operating like that anymore. So I think we are going to see a significant amount of player sales. I also think we're going to see a significant amount of people coming in. I really do believe that because I never believed that, nobody wanted these players. Nobody at all. If there's a player that you don't want at the club, I'm sure there's somebody out there that would be willing to take that player, and there is some sort of deal you could take. If you really want them off your books, if you really want them out of the club, you can make deals. There are deals to be made in different types of ways. Even the way we had to move on Alexis Sanchez, it's not ideal, but you move him on and you pay half his wages and you get him the hell out of the club and you're only paying half the wages. Instead of the full wages, he's no longer. Like, there's so many things that you could do behind the scenes that are not really talked about. But the thing is, if we do move on Maguire and Lindelof, I mean, Varane is going. That's 3 center backs. So we're going to need to get probably 2 center backs. I don't know, if Kwambala is actually ready, but he could be an option there. And then obviously we would have Martinez. Now, hopefully his injury problems don't continue and he gets past that and he stays fit because we need him to stay fit. And then we would have like Johnny Evans as like a backup. So, if we're getting out 3, we definitely have to get in 2 at least. If we get out 2, we could probably get away with getting in 1. Maybe you would still go for the 2. But but there's a lot of things we need to do. If we're moving on these players, we got to get in players, and we need the players in the positions already. So it's not an easy task. Like, we're talking about this, and it makes it seem like it's an easy task, and it's really not an easy task, like, at all. Where are we? Okay, so you guys are saying in here, we have to buy and uncover new talent coming up. I mean, there's loads of those players, and I'm pretty sure our scouting network is fully aware of them, but we just need, the technical director or the director of football, which obviously are different people now, and I trust their expertise a lot more than the people that we had. They need to identify these targets, and I think they're going to do a way better job than anything that we've had, so I think they will start identifying these targets for sure. Richard saying no, he done a job, but considering the money he gave us, 20 games. What, this season? Are you talking about Varane? This season. Oh yeah, this season. You talking about Varane? Lyle Wilson saying true. Richard Haver. They were part of a highly successful Madrid team. We would have had to break the bank for them, literally. Yeah. I mean, but that's why they moved on. That's why they got moved on from there. I mean, Varane wanted to leave. He chose. I think they actually wanted to kind of keep Varane. But Varane decided he wanted a new challenge and he wanted to come to Manchester United. It was actually his dream to play for Manchester United. It was one of his, goals, objectives. He loved Manchester United and he wanted to come represent Manchester United. Um, and Casemiro, they just were ready to move him on. I mean, look who they ended up getting in their midfield: Tchouaméni, Jude Bellingham. Um, who's the other guy? The other young French player. I forgot his name. Drawing a blank here. But yeah, they got in three exceptionally talented young midfielders. And they had a clear plan. Camavinga, that's who it was. Thank you, Lyle. And Camavinga, they bring in those three players, and they moved on Casemiro. Like Casemiro was getting a little old. Um, and they looked at it and they were like, well, we'll keep Modric here, we'll keep Cruz. They're both old, but they probably evaluated out of all three of them, and they were like, these guys are still putting in crazy performances. Casemiro's probably maybe slightly down, or maybe they knew something, or they looked at the data or something, and they were like, well, we'll choose to move him on. You know what I mean? And we did get him late, but that's the only way that we were ever really gonna get them. Because we would have had to pay ridiculous amounts to get them out of there. 100%. Casemiro Modric link was deadly. Oh yeah, 100% in their primes. It was golden. It was beautiful. It was exactly what you need. Richard saying the Van de Beek one worries me because this new injury means he will be our player next season. That's something I seen that and I was like shit when I seen that he got that injury, because I was like, number one, that sucks for him. I feel bad for him, and it's like this guy cannot catch a break, and it's like, what the fuck has happened to him? He really started suffering the shit when he came to us, which even puts more onus on our like injury team, because it's like, bro, look at even like these players that like they weren't here, they were fine injury wise, they come to our club and they start getting these crazy reoccurring injuries, and it's like, what are we doing to our players? Like, we're not looking after them or whatever. Now obviously he's on loan and he sustained this outside of Manchester United, but I mean, he's been suffering setbacks and injuries, and you don't see him, and you don't, the whole time he's been here, when he wasn't on loan. But we do need to move him on somehow, and obviously that's probably going to be a setback in that, because nobody's going to buy an injured player. So that's obviously a problem. But listen, if we move on 9 players and Van de Beek ends up staying for like half a season, maybe we move him on in January, because maybe he'll be back and ready to go by January. That's not really a problem. It's just as long as we can move on a majority of them, or a good amount, I think that's a good start for INEOS. Obviously, you got to do it in 2-3 windows, right? Use the summer window, use the January window. Don't ignore it like the Glazers always ignore it, because it's quarter 1 and you don't want to spend money or do business. Use that window, and then you get to the next summer. 3 windows, the team is totally transformed, the team looks completely different, and the team is in a totally different direction. 3 windows. Ralph Rangnick said you could do it in 2-3 windows. I always believe that, and I think it's definitely possible, as long as you use the windows properly and you are, on point with what you are doing. You can definitely do it. Richard said, well, we could have got rid of Danny 18 months ago and it was blocked. But that's what I'm saying. Like, 18 months ago, we could have got rid of him. But 18 months ago, the Glazers were like, let's retain our asset. We spent whatever we had on him. I forgot what the price was, but let's say I think it was around 45 million, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. So we have an asset for 45 million. This asset, people only want to pay 20 million for him. So when we sell this asset, we're going to have to write off a 25 million loss. That's not going to be good for our books. Don't sell him for 25 million. If they want, they can give us 45 million or more. Obviously, the other club is going to be like, we're not paying fucking 45 million from him. So the transfer is never going to happen. And this was the problem that we were running into. Now, I don't think that that's going to work like that, because they don't actually have control over that. Sir Jim has control over this and the people he's employed. So, and by the way, Okay, the volume is good. By the way, if the volume ever goes bad, if my sound, if the mic, whatever, please let me know in the chat because we did the Red Devil recap and I had no idea that about 30 minutes in, the mic started getting some weird feedback and it was like very irritating and very hard and like nobody told me and I wish they did because I would have tried to fix it. But just if it does, just chat, please let me know so I could fix that. I don't want that happening. But Sandy's saying, bro, we are in making some transfers every time we go for a player. We are feeling to buy that one expected Liverpool to be ahead of us. It's so unbalancing as if a big trouble. I hope this time will be. I know you're trying to write in English for me. I'm trying to understand what you're saying. So, bro, we are in the making some transfers every time we go for a player. We are feeling to buy that one expected Liverpool to be ahead of us. It's so unbalancing as if I don't I don't really know what you're saying, but anyway. Richard also saying so Torsen story is getting legs and he would be a free. Yes, it is getting legs. It is we talked about this I think last week. It's back up again over here. We actually have it. I had it right here. So this was reported here. Manchester United now trying to hijack Newcastle's move because apparently Newcastle are interested as well. He is a free agent. Like I said, I haven't watched the guy too much. I haven't really paid attention to him. So I can't really say, oh, this guy is brilliant or this guy is shit. I'm not going to pretend. I will watch the upcoming match that Fulham has, and I'm going to watch how this guy plays. But as far as where I am with this right now, if Jason Wilcox, if whoever else is involved, if they think that he's a good enough signing, or he can be some type of a quality signing to add to this club project, then I'm for it. And I'm willing to see him when he comes to Manchester United and judge him on what he does in a Manchester United shirt. But it is gaining some legs. It is also obviously interesting that Jason Wilcox helped bring Torsen through the youth ranks at Manchester City. So there are definitely legs to this story, and let's see how it develops. I think Torsen wants to come to Manchester United. I think he views Manchester United as a very historic club. I think he sees it as a big step up for him. I think he likes Manchester United. He actually posted something on his Instagram story of like I think it was when Fulham played at Old Trafford, and it was just like a picture of him standing in Old Trafford. So that might have been a hint. I think he sees Manchester United as just a big club. I think he would love the opportunity to go play there. And I think if it comes down to it, I think he will choose Manchester United over Newcastle United. So we could be getting that. And hey, a signing like that, I'm not even against, right? This guy plays in the Premier League, right? He has Premier League experience. He's free. And we've already mentioned we're going to need to get multiple center backs. Varane is going. And if you want to move on Lindelof and you want to move on Maguire, if we bring in a guy like this, young guy, for free, Premier League experience, and you get him in, and then you only have to go buy one or two more center backs, that's beautiful. Whether he's a squad player or he becomes a starter, it's still beautiful. That's good business. He's free, doesn't work out. You've wasted no money. You could probably sell him for a fee. That's great business. So I think it's a good start. And I think it's a nice little tiny indication of things that we are going to do. And, a lot of people in our fan base, they might be upset because they're like, look at the quality of signings we have to do. But I actually disagree. I think we need to do these signings. I think we need to forget about the marquee signings, the Galactico signings, the big player name signings. I think we really need to forget about all that stuff, and we just need to build a solid foundation with players, good quality players that have something to offer, players that are hungry to improve themselves and go and prove something and go into a project and believe in the project and build with the project and grow with the project. If you get maybe one guy that's a big name, big signing, that's okay. But to go run around and, sign this guy for 70 million, sign that guy for 80 million, sign that guy for 100 million, we don't need that. We've been there. We've done that. It doesn't work with the way we're operating. And we've gotten to a point where we can't really do that anyway. So Ray's saying we have a big list of crap. I think he meant. He wrote crab. But list of crap, man. You talking about 15 players we have to move. I don't know if we have anybody capable at the club to move so many players and buying new ones. Well, it depends who they bring in, right? I think the guys that are in charge, I think they could do it. I don't know about like getting rid of 15, but can they move 7 or 8? They should be able to. They should be able to, and they're already working on stuff now. I mean, this isn't like, before when we're waiting for the January transfer window to open. They've been working on these plans for like at least a couple months now, for sure, and they're still working on it. So and they're already moving in certain aspects. So I think the speed and what we're going to see from INEOS, I think is actually going to blow away some people because they're going to look at it and they're going to be like, wow, these guys are actually doing business. And it's like, we could have always done this business. It's just that the people that were in charge were just so incompetent, or they were just so refusing to do that shit, that it was so bad. But I think we can. I think it is actually possible to do such things. 100%. Now the only issue might be is that there is a Euro. Now luckily for us, I think most of the players were looking to move on. Except for obviously like a Maguire or something like that. They might not even be involved in the internationals, so we can move them on. The problem might be trying to get the players in, because if the players are involved in the Euros, that makes the deals harder to do, because a lot of the times the players, they don't want to talk about their transfers or whatever. They want to focus on the competition. So it slows shit down. But, yeah, you got to navigate around that. Many clubs have done it before, and there's other players to get that aren't involved in these competitions. So, Richard's saying, yeah, they only see figures on the balance sheet, not footballers. That's why Woodward was in charge. That's why all of them were in charge. That's why they never really cared, in terms of performance. That's why they never cared if we actually won a trophy or not. It was just more about the balance sheet. It was more about, Richard, the club in terms of football aspect was a disaster, but when he forwards them the quarterly reports and they're like, we made we're up $135 million, the Glazers look at that and they're like, fantastic, you're doing a great job, and then that's it. They never actually took the time to look at the football aspect and be like, well, why do we have players leaking to the media? Why are the players disrespecting the manager? Why are certain things being operated in this way? They never looked at that stuff, because it didn't matter. I think it would be a different transfer window. It'll definitely be a different transfer window. And you're saying Torsen is better than Lindelof? Yeah, I probably believe that. And Lindelof has to be moved on anyway, so and I think that would be a fantastic replacement. Actually, you get somebody in like Tosin, younger guy, right? Premier League experience. You bring him in, and you move on Lindelof. I think that's a great replacement as a squad player. Lindelof is a squad player anyway. You know what I mean? So I'll take that. I'll take that for sure. And it's definitely going to be one of the most interesting windows, because I think, number one, we're going to be sort of surprised. But there's just so many different aspects that we're gonna be looking at. It's gonna be like, how do we get linked? Who do we get linked to? How fast are we operating? What kind of players are we getting? Just like certain little aspects of like, are they just gonna pop up with like, Manchester United are in for this player, and then within like 3 or 4 days we sign the player? Or is it gonna be like how it usually was, where it was a little bit dragged out, like, oh, we're looking at this player, and then developments follow over a few weeks, and then we end up getting the player? Obviously that used to extend to like months with certain players. I mean, we spent a whole year and a half chasing Sancho. But yeah, there's just so many different aspects of what's going to happen this summer that's going to be very interesting to see, and it could definitely be a very, very exciting time, and I hope it is. And Lyle's saying, yeah, we need to do these signings and rebuild this. This is why no European football could be hella beneficial. Well, I said that. I said, other than the negative of to the financial aspect, I said no European football, I said that in the last match, can be a blessing in disguise for us. Number one, because it's giving us less money, we actually have to go out and sell more players to raise the funds if they want to get the funds. So that, number one, could be a blessing in disguise, and two, it might just help in our rebuild. I mean, Arsenal, as an example, did 2 seasons 8th place, no European football, but it allowed them for the third season to like challenge for the title in the third season. And you know, you kind of think about it, it's like, dude, you guys finished 8th back to back. You had no European football, and then in the third season, you literally went directly to challenging for the title. So I think there's definitely a benefit there, an underlying benefit. Like, yeah, you want to be in all the competitions and you want to be in all the best competitions, but it could be you know, in disguise. It could be a benefit in disguise for us, and something that maybe we don't necessarily want, but maybe something that we might need, and it might help us in the long run for sure. Richard saying, wouldn't it be perfect if Iran played on the 25th of May and won the FA Cup? That would be awesome. I would love that. And he did say in his message to us, because he released a video. I don't know if you guys seen it or not. But he did release like a personal video where he sat down in a chair and he spoke for like about a minute and a half or something, just sent a message to the fans, and he did say that he will see us on the 25th of May for the FA Cup. And I think Erik ten Hag mentioned something about like Varane might play. He might play in that cup too. So I think he's ready to I think he's getting ready for that, and that's going to be his final send off. So if we were to win that FA Cup and he is a part of that, that would be absolutely beautiful. It would be absolutely beautiful. And I would love nothing more than for that to happen. And there was 2 topics. There was actually 2 or 3 topics we didn't speak about here. So, before we end it, because we're running a little late and I want to end it, but let's cover these topics and then we'll go on from there. So this little piece update, in the top right here came from Mike Keegan, and it says there is an element of the MUFC hierarchy that would like to see Erik ten Hag allowed to work under the proper structure that they are working on implementing, a view that the reason the likes of Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho have failed is because that this is not an environment in which anyone can succeed, which echoes and sentiments everything that the majority of this fan base has been saying for years and years. Hopefully that's something that's super credible, because I think that's absolutely 100% true, and I've been saying that. I know you guys said it as well, and there's many other people out there that have been saying it. And this is why I'm saying it's hard to go at the manager, because it's like this, whatever we have currently or whatever we've been had for all these years is not the proper environment for anyone to succeed. So it's like, how can you solely look at the manager and be like, get rid of the manager, he's shit, and bring in a new one, and things will be better. We've already done that, and we've gone in a merry-go-round, and it never gets better. It gets better for a season, and then it goes right back to being a fucking disaster. And that's why we cannot. That's why I think we just need to give this guy one more season. Get all the pieces around him set up. Like I said, you're on the chessboard. You set up all your pieces in position strategically, and then you can move that king around wherever you want. You could do whatever you want with that king. And I think that's what we need to be doing. We need to be playing chess and not checkers. And I think Manchester United have been trying to play checkers for far too long, and now it's time to play some chess. There was also this little update that Erik ten Hag said on Rasmus Højlund, because I think he did do a press conference for tomorrow's match, obviously. And I just wanted to bring this in here because I know Rasmus has been getting criticism, and I want to defend him. And also, I think it's important when Erik ten Hag comes out to speak about one of his signings. So he said last season we had a goal scorer with 30. We added 1 extra striker to the squad, and on financial resources, more was not possible. We were quite confident when you are third and reach 2 finals. When you add a striker, the transfer policy is right. So that is definitely interesting. Well, like he's trying to get at there, like um, and he was pretty much saying like, listen, it was the right move to add him in here. We probably would have went for another striker. Obviously, we didn't have the financial resources to do that, but we got in who we got in. I had another update here. So on top of that, we are talking about centre backs, correct? So this followed up after with Manchester United are prepared to offer 55 million for Everton centre back Jared Brentwaite. So that's from Chris Wheeler. I think he's actually he is a good player, and I like this guy. Um, but I don't know if we're gonna be able to get him because I think they want 80 million Everton, and we're offering 55. And I don't know if they're gonna go somewhere in the middle, but I just am wary about spending a lot of like a high transfer fee on one single player. I feel like we really need to spread it around. But 55 million is not a bad price for me, especially for him. He's Premier League experience. I think he's actually a very good player. He's young. He looks like he has good potential. So if we can get him for a good price, I'm all for it. I just don't want the club to go spend 80 million for this guy. If they spend 80 million for him, I'm going to be very disappointed because I don't think it's a good deal. I don't think 80 million is a good deal for this guy. I think at that point you could take you could take the 80 million, split it in two, sign two players for 40 million, and you have two players that are very good quality. And you have two more extra center backs at the club. Um, that's what Richard is saying. I would take him, but only at 55. Yeah, I think like if you go anywhere like above, if you go above like 60, like if you do 65 million or higher, or maybe like above 65 million. So if you were to do like 70 or higher, I think it's too much. I think it's overpaid, and I think it would be a waste because you could literally just go and get two center backs for the price of one, and they would probably have somewhere around a similar quality, if not ceiling or potential. Um, Lyle saying that's so unfair on Highland. Dude doesn't on Hoyland doesn't get any service from Bruno, which has been so weird. How is a striker supposed to be successful without being fed? That is also a change we need for next season. Yeah, it's that one is a very mystifying thing, and I wish somebody that asks Ten Hag questions that's like in the press conferences, I wish they would just ask him a direct question like that. I wish they would just ask him and be like, you signed Hoyland, and you believe in his ability and whatever, and it's just like, why does he not get service? Why does it seem like the players are not giving him the ball? Why does it seem like maybe the game plan is not to play directly through him? Just like, and they will never ask that because they suck at their jobs. But I wish somebody would ask that so we can get an answer, because it's actually very insane, like that he does lack in chances created for him. And it's like, and it does give off the impression like we literally signed a striker, and what was the point of signing for the striker? Because we don't play through the striker. And I would like an answer from the manager from that, but unfortunately, nobody's going to ask him this question because they suck at their jobs, and they want to ask him dumb shit, or they want to write stupid shit like Samuel Luckhurst, talking about Martial and hating on Martial before a fucking match when Martial hasn't been involved all season because he had his injury and he had his surgery. Like, it's nonsense. So like, I wish, like, you know what? Like, see, people were against when Goldbridge and the United Stand got access to the press conferences, but I was there for that because you know what they do at least? They ask a question that the fans want an answer to. And they know that because they literally speak to fans and fans watch their show. So they take a question or two and they ask a question that the normal media will never ask. Even the United View, when they're in there, they do it too. And I think the club should be getting them in more because they at least ask questions that fans wants answers to, not some stupid shit that's going to be written as a headline that nobody really cares about, you know? Um, and then Richard obviously agreeing, totally unfair wingers running with their heads down. Yeah, but that's also another thing too, like if we are to play through to the striker, we're gonna have to get different wingers. I think Diallo can do that job. I think you see from Diallo, I think what he shows, I think Diallo can do that job in terms of providing service to the striker. I think he's one of these players that can do it. Um, Anthony can't do it, not playing from that side, not playing from the right side. So you would have to shift him to the left, but that's never going to happen because Marcus and Garnacho both want to play on the left, and that's both their favorite side. And I think Garnacho does it a little bit. I think Garnacho could do it more. I think sometimes he is a little bit too selfish and doesn't pick his head up enough. But also, Garnacho's young guy. He's 19, and you can kind of teach him to, pass the ball, look for the player more a little bit. Marcus, I, you know, he's never done it, and I don't think you're gonna see him do it. So, we're gonna need somebody else, and somebody like Elise, I think, would be good. Where are we in the chat? Yeah. Floppy, Aloe, Alu, whatever your name is. What up? What up? How you doing? And then JD is in here. JD, how you doing, buddy? You said, do you think we might see Rise Jones from the youth next season? He looks really promising. Maybe. It's always a possibility. But with the youth, it's very hard to tell because you never know if they're actually 100% ready. I mean, I think it starts. I think it starts in It starts in a process. Like we need to get him like called up to the first squad, train with them, and maybe like bring him on the bench and sub him in. But it's definitely a possibility. I think the kid definitely has potential, and he can definitely turn himself into something. But he's just gonna have to keep working hard and wait for his opportunity like everybody else. But you never know what next season's gonna bring. There might be another player that none of us even know his name. And he might just come through and put himself in there. But I think in terms INEOS, they're really focusing on the youth, and they're really going to be looking to push that forward. So I think we should expect to see more of our youth players coming through and being pushed into the first team, or really trying to get in there. So I think that's something we're going to see even further now. I mean, we got Ethan Wheatley is featuring a lot more. I think he scored again the other day, or today, might have been today. So he's looking promising, and I think he's hungry, and I think he's very encouraged that he's been given a couple appearances in the first team, and he's been performing very, very well. So he could be somebody that features a lot more maybe next season. And also, you never know. What if we suffer catastrophic injuries yet again, or something like that? We might have to bring in these youth players, and we might need them to play a very important part. It also depends who we bring in, what positions we have, how much depth we have in certain positions. If we're short in a certain position and we suffer injuries or setbacks, we might have to bring in a certain youth player to cover for us. That youth player might take their opportunity and perform out of their skull and literally put themselves in the first team going forward. So, the youth players are always interesting, but at the end of the day, we have to remember the kids, they're young, and they're going to be inconsistent is the number one thing. They might have very high ceiling. They might have some very good raw talent. They might have some very high potential, but at the end of the day, they're always going to go like this up until a certain point. They never just perform like this. It's impossible, and it's unfair for that to happen. Or to ask that of them. But That's part of the learning curve. You got to learn that. You got to learn the highs and the lows, and you take that on board. But that's why we always have to be patient with the youth, because there's going to be times where they play very excellent out of their skull, and then there's going to be a game or two or maybe three where they play like absolute crap. They make a dire mistake, but that's the point of having the kids. It's a learning process. They're kids for a reason. Um, Lyle saying every season we get that one youth player that shines next season. We waiting for that next one, from Rashford to Greenwood to McSauce, Garnacho last season, and Mano this season. I think that player might be Wheatley. To be quite honest with you, I think that player might be Wheatley. Wheatley is performing excellent in the under 18s, and he's already getting some minutes here and there, and a cameo and substitute in the first team. So I think Wheatley might be one of them, and I would actually love that, because I think we need, if we could develop one of our own and a striker. Number one, that will save us a lot of money, and number two, we could just have a backup. Um, and that way we could literally have Rasmus, a more experienced striker, and then an even younger striker than Rasmus, who is right there, and can compete. And I think that would probably be a good lineup, considering we play with one striker. If we play with two strikers, obviously we're going to need an extra striker. But if we're playing with just one striker, having those three as strikers, more experienced guy, Rasmus Højlund, and then Wheatley, that would be cool, and that would be good for me. Um, Floppy saying Rashford needs to go, sell him to Wrexham. Well, Wrexham can't afford him. Ryan Reynolds might be able to afford him. But Wrexham can't afford him. Ain't no way. But I get that. I get what you're saying. You just want him to go. You want him to go. Under 18 Premier League champs tonight, beating Chelsea. Yes, they are. And big up the under 18s. They did absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic season. Proud of those kids. And hopefully a lot of them bring what they're doing in that youth team to the first team when they do get their opportunities in the first team. They bring that mentality, they bring that passion, they bring that, just everything that they're doing. That's, our under 18s. I wish our first team performed like our under 18s. I wish that's the way we were performing this season. I really do. But I'm proud of those kids, and they've done good, and I hope they bring everything that they have with them right now. I hope they don't lose it on their way to the first team. I hope that they don't get infected by this negative shit that goes on in the first team. I hope they don't lose themselves with, becoming more involved with the brand deals and social media and all that shit. I want them to keep their head down. I want them to keep progressing as a player. And just try to avoid as many distractions as possible, because I feel like that's where we're seeing the big difference. Is like, these kids are kids, and yeah, while they're distracted maybe by social media in terms of like a personal surrounding, friends, family, this and that, they're not talked about on a global scale. Like if you're a first team player, like if you are a Marcus Rashford or you are a Jadon Sancho or something like that, right? And that's when shit starts getting out of control, because it's like brands and this and that, and you got to go here and do this, and then you're getting criticized like fucking crazy, and you can't escape it. And so, like, I just want the kids to try and keep their head down as much as possible and just keep progressing as a player. um Richard saying there was some good news this week. The ladies team lifting the FA Cup. Yes, give it up for the ladies as well. They won the FA Cup. They did their thing. Hopefully we can do the same. It seems to be only our first team that's got to do something. The under 18s are Premier League champions, right? The women's team won the FA Cup, and our men's first team and our main team, what have we done? We're in 8th. We got kicked out of the Champions League, didn't even make it out of the group stage. We lost the Carabao Cup, so we need to do something. And hopefully we can lift the FA Cup as well, and that would top it off, and that would probably be better. Floppy saying he can't wait to see Torsten in defense for AC Milan. From AC Milan or for AC Milan? You're gonna see him at AC Milan? Why? He's going to AC Milan? Wait, is he? Now I'm confused. Now you're confusing me, Floppy. Floppy, what are you saying here? Are you saying he's going to AC Milan? Did he play for AC Milan? Where is the AC Milan? I haven't seen anything talked about AC Milan. Why is he going to AC Milan? He's coming to United. Jason Wilcox was his guy. Um and then obviously we had this Brantwaite thing, and then there's just one more thing that I didn't bring up, which was, and this should get people's spirits up, which is here. Let me hide this. There it is. Lisandro Martinez will return to the squad. He's done some sessions with us. This was Ten Hag speaking. Lisandro Martinez will return to the squad. He's done some sessions with us, and we plan for him to be available if this afternoon everything goes right in training. So, Lisandro could be back tomorrow against Newcastle. So that is positive news. I would err on the cautious side, and hopefully, he is 100% ready to go, because I do not want Lisandro to get injured. I don't want him to get injured in any capacity. I want him to be fit, and he needs to be available for the FA Cup, which is the most important thing. So there's no need to, if he is not 100%, give him 20 minutes, give him 30 minutes tomorrow versus Newcastle. He doesn't have to start. He doesn't have to play fucking 60 minutes. You know what I mean? The more we minimize the risk of him getting some type of reoccurring injury, the better, because I want and we need him to be available for the FA Cup 100%. That guy has to be available. I mean, think about it. We get to the FA Cup and we got Raphael Varane and Lisandro Martinez starting at center back, and then I guess we would have to go with Delo and Wan-Bissaka. But you're starting, Delo, Wan-Bissaka, Varane, and Martinez as the defense instead of whatever we had, CASEMIRO at center back and either Maguire or Kwambala or Johnny Evans, and then Wan-Bissaka. It makes a world of difference. I would love nothing more than for Martinez to play with Varane in the FA Cup final. Varane's last game for us, they go off and somehow we pull off a miraculous win against Manchester City, win the FA Cup, and Varane rides off into the sunset. That would be awesome. You have Richard has 60 Heineken arriving on the 24th of May. Is that all for you? 60 Heineken? What are you doing with 60 Heineken? 60? Drink all 60. I hope you split it up. I hope you don't drink it in one setting. I hope you're gonna share some of that. 60. 60. Really? It's gonna be a good time. He goes, yeah, that's nothing. Yeah, that's good though. My father's a drinker too. He likes his alcohol. So, yeah, I know how it goes. I'm not the biggest drinker. I'm more of a social drinker. Like at a party or whatever, I'll have drinks and then I'll really drink. You know what I mean? But just yeah, like a regular Tuesday casual day or whatever, I don't really drink too much. But if there's a party or something, or I'm on vacation and we're going out, that's I become a drinker then. But good, enjoy those 60 Heinekens, for the Champions League final. LOL, since they're the main sponsors. Oh yeah. Yeah, they are the sponsors. No, it's for the FA Cup. It's for the FA Cup on the 25th of May. It's for the FA Cup. But I think we're gonna end it there. Just gonna double check just to see if anything came out after we were speaking here, and I don't. So right here, just in 8 minutes ago, but this is from Neil Custis in the Sun, so take it with a pinch of salt, right? Take it with a pinch of salt, because Neil Custis is Neil Custis, and he works for the Sun, and Um, he said many different fucking things and he's been totally wrong. But this just came out 8 minutes ago. Neil Custis in the Sun saying Aaron Wan-Bissaka will also be joining Raphael Varane and Anthony Martial in saying farewell to Old Trafford on Wednesday night. Oh yeah, because that's our last home game. That's the last game at Old Trafford. So they're gonna say their goodbyes to the Old Trafford crowd. Oh shit, I didn't even realize. What do you guys think about that? Ray does whiskey. What do you guys think about that? They're reporting that Aaron Wan-Bissaka is also going to be saying his goodbyes with Varane and Anthony Martial tomorrow night. So Wan-Bissaka is out the door. Again, Neil Custis in the Sun, so he's the only one that said this. I don't see anybody else really saying this. Um, you know, and we did have a couple updates here from Erik ten Hag. Erik ten Hag asked if tomorrow will be his farewell appearance as Manchester United manager at Old Trafford, and Erik said goodbye. For me, it's not how I feel it and how I see it. So there's that update. Ten Hag saying he ain't going nowhere, and Erik ten Hag also said, if you heard the comments from Wayne Rooney. First, I have heard about Wan-Bissaka. No, but that's what I'm saying, Richard. It literally just this is Neil Custis just said this like 10 minutes ago. Or in the Sun. Obviously, it's the Sun, so they're like not the most credible. I guess we'll find out tomorrow, for sure, right? Um, but he is the only one that said this, and he's saying this today. Nobody else has said this, so could be true, could be full of shit. He's been wrong about a lot of stuff recently. There was a point where he was decently good on Manchester United stuff at least, but he's been wrong on a lot of stuff. So, but Erik ten Hag did say something on Wayne Rooney. Wayne Rooney obviously made remarks after the Arsenal match, saying that some of the players in the MUFC squad are refusing to play. And Erik ten Hag said, you have to see here in Carrington, the players are desperate to play. Bruno Fernandes did a fitness test on Sunday to play, and Rashford did everything he could do. Players are desperate to play. Lindelof and Varane are training to make themselves available for the final. They do what they can do. So that was, I guess, his little response to what Wayne Rooney said. And Erik ten Hag also said something on Lisandro Martinez. He said when he's fit, his standards are high, and he is an absolute leader for us, a warrior who has the right spirit. He is a very important player in our defensive line, and we missed him across almost the whole season. And I absolutely 110% agree with that statement from Erik ten Hag. Lisandro Martinez, 100% standards are high. He is definitely and absolutely a leader. He's definitely and absolutely a warrior who definitely 100% has the right spirit. And he is definitely a very important player for not even just our defensive line, but our squad as a whole, the dressing room, the whole thing. And we have definitely missed him. Which is why we need more players like him. We need more players like, even if they might not have the ability, we need more players that have his mentality, that have his personality. You need to add these players to the squad. 110%. And this is what I'm saying. We need to build. That's why it's important to build. We need more players like Lisandro Martinez. 100%. You could see the big difference it makes when we lose a player like that. Joe Marin coming in here. You said L. L for what? Explain yourself. You don't just come in here and start saying things. Explain yourself. L for what? What L? What L? Because I'll give you an L. You're gonna learn today. That's your L. What L? Explain yourself. Come on. Like, if you got something to say, you could say it. Go ahead. I don't care. I'll read you out and we'll talk about it. But like, you just come in here and you say L. Like, what L? L about what? And Richard is saying, yeah, Neil can be very hit or miss. Yeah, I mean, he works for the Sun. So, and let me see. Ten Hag also saying fans understand this club is in a transition and fans understand the huge problems we have had to face and especially positions in key areas. Yeah, I think so. I think a majority understand. I think there's also another section that don't really comprehend or they just refuse to comprehend. So, um, you know, but there are definitely fans like us. We understand what's going on. We understand what's wrong with the squad, and we understand the direction that this club has to move in. Um, you know. So Erik Ten Hag already saying that they are going to do a lap of honor tomorrow. No matter what, he said through good times and bad times, we are together, and the fans show it. That we are together, so we will do a lap of honor. So we're gonna get that tomorrow as well. And that's pretty much it. Oh, he was asked on Marcus Rashford. He said Rashford trained and tried. He trained and tried to train last week, but he didn't make it. Players are desperate to play. They want to be in the right shape. Um, yeah. So I think he's defending the players a little bit because there was that talk about how like some of them probably could make themselves available and they have now made themselves available. Um, you know. So, but we have the match coming tomorrow. So obviously we will do a Red Devil recap. Um, like we always do after the match. We will be here, we will be live. If you tuned in, thank you for tuning in. If you can for me and you haven't already, smash the like button. That's really important for us. It helps us out a lot and I greatly appreciate it. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe and then turn on notifications so you know when we go live so you could join us and our beautiful community. Obviously, you see the lovely conversations we're having. Always very insightful stuff, good points being made, and I always enjoy a good time, and I think everybody in the chat enjoys and has a good time chatting. Um, and yeah, we'll be live tomorrow after the match, Red Devil recap. So hopefully you guys are there to join us. And other than that, thank you for joining. We appreciate you, Lyle. Thank you. You were in here carrying in the beginning. It was just me and you, so I appreciate that. I always appreciate when the guys come in and carry the show for me, give me something to continue the flow of the show. You guys are always important. Without you guys, I am nothing. So without the community, we have nothing. That's why we're all in this together. So thank you guys very much. Super fun. I'm glad you enjoyed it, Lyle. Richard, we'll see you. Thank you. I appreciate you. Good night. Ray, we'll see you. Rashford without Luke Shaw is nothing. I mean that left hand side is a struggle, right? You need a good left back to overlap and do your stuff, right? So again, thank you guys for tuning in. Have a good night. Be good. Take care of yourselves. Hopefully, maybe we could get a decent positive result to end the last match of the season at Old Trafford. Hopefully. Um, and it might be a couple last games at Old Trafford for a few players. Raphael Varane obviously being one of them, maybe possibly Wan-Bissaka, and if Martial is available, because I don't know if he's going to actually be available, but they might be there and say their goodbyes to the Old Trafford crowd tomorrow. So it's going to be somewhat of a sentimental night tomorrow anyway. So other than that, though, we will catch you later. Be good, take care, and thank you guys for tuning in again, and we'll see you later.